I'm not fixing you from the outside in. You are fixing you from the inside out. And I'm actually helping you. I found a way to press the right buttons and trigger the right processes, support these processes with my program. But the magic is in yourself. You are doing it. I'm just helping you do it. And that's why it always works. Not always to the full 100%, but in many cases at least to 90 and sometimes even to 120.
Hello and welcome to the Mind Your Leadership podcast. I'm Karen Sook, and today I'm honored to have Marc van Lokven, the former officer in the Royal Netherlands Air Force with over 20 years experience. He served in various high-pressure roles, eventually becoming a squadron commander at the operational F-16 airfield. After his military career, Marc turned his passions for understanding how the brain works into founding Marvalous Health, a company dedicated to helping people enhance brain function and recover from conditions like stress, burnout, and traumatic brain injuries. He's worked with everyone from high-performing professionals in aviation and sports to a broad audience, using brain training and coaching programs to improve lives. Marc is also a motivational speaker, sharing his expertise through global workshops and lectures. And actually, Marc and I met in the WHASO Summit 6 months ago, right, Marc?
Yes, World Happiness Summit, where I had a talk indeed on the brain and how we can thrive in today's high-speed world.
So that's amazing. I also used your application to play with it. It's also great. You gave me a demo, you remember, before the summit. So we will delve into it in our conversation, but I do like to start with a more personal question. Asking, after 20 years in the Air Force, what one thing that you miss most about the military life, if you miss something, and what's something that you're happy to leave behind?
That's a good question. Well, the one thing I do miss, the one thing that you do have in the military is a very good camaraderie. So it's like a family. There's a lot of things, of course, you do together in stressful situations. So you have to very much unconditionally rely on one another. So that creates a bond. So I do miss the family. And every now and then when there's like a reunion or something and I get invited and I'm over there, although it's meanwhile almost a little more than 16 years ago, it feels like yesterday because it's still family. So that's the good thing that I missed about it, but it's still there in some way. What are the things I'm happy I left behind? I don't know if there's really something that I'm happy that I left behind. I think maybe looking at the world today and how things are going, I didn't join the Air Force to be in conflict situations. And I think nobody does. It's, of course, all about protecting peace and all those things, but also because you like to serve and it's a profession that you like to be part of. So with all the conflicts going on in the world, and from where you're at, you're pretty familiar with that. Yeah. That's the part I don't miss, to be part of those conversations, and the things about what we should do or should not do. I think it's time we start to accept one another for who and what we are and have a more peaceful living. And quite interestingly enough, my current work led me a little bit to that phase. From the point of view that the brain also is responsible for our peace of mind and how we think, literally.
Amazing. You actually started answering my second question because I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to move to the world into the brain training?
Yeah.
The neurochemistry, and what had sparked your interest? If you can elaborate more about this.
Absolutely, because as you already said in the introduction, I worked initially with a lot of people in high performance. So when I was in the military and part of military aviation, it's like a front runner with technology. So all technological advancements, you typically see the first in the military and in military aviation. And I was always fascinated by the human brain and how we can cope with stressful situations, how we can handle fast decision making, build resilience. I was always interested in that from a hobby point of view. But when I could see all the advancements, and especially with new aircraft types coming up, like now the F-35, that are so advanced, a question arose in my head thinking, isn't technological development going faster than normally by means of evolution we would adapt to automatically? And I think our brain has never been able to stay on par with that. So one of my thoughts was, would it be possible to have a training that would actually help expand your brain capacity and catch up a bit through, let's say, accelerated evolution for the brain to be on par again with what the world is demanding? Because it's not only in a military environment, but I think if you look at the world today, it seems like everybody is a fighter pilot flying with the speed of sound through daily life. So that's basically what sparked my interest to think, if I'm going to retire and after 20 years, I basically wanted to do something else, I ventured off with a little bit of some side steps in a little bit of a bridging period to set up a program which I can say now really expands your brain capacity literally.
For example, what do you mean? Which skills that it expand, brain capacity? Can you give me an example? What does it mean? Because I don't get it.
Yeah. So I always compare it to, let's say, a bucket, right? So everything you do on a daily basis, consciously and subconsciously, has to fit in the bucket. So everything your brain is doing, from controlling your body temperature, your heartbeat, your blood flow, everything that you don't even have to think about, and all the things the limbic system are processing as far as emotions and feelings and thoughts. And then you have the rational brain. This all together needs to fit in this bucket that we call brain capacity, right? But if you look at the world today, with all the stimuli we get constantly, in the stressful environment we live in, I mean, only look at your mobile phone and all the triggers you get from it, all these push notifications that can drive you nuts, all these emails you're getting, and maybe 10% is useful, but you have to look at all of them before you notice. So the demand on the brain is so much that the bucket basically is already full, and then you have this little room left for just the little other things you need to think about. So I think that's also the reason why people are becoming so short-fused nowadays. There's hardly any fuse left. So emotionally, there's hardly any control over it because they all react instinctively because there's no room to think about what they're thinking. That's the little part I mentioned in the talk at Wahasu. So you can do two things. You can clean up the bucket, and there's a lot of very good interventions that help with that. Meditation, for example, mindfulness, NLP. These things will all help rearrange and manage the buckets and then clean it up a bit so there's more room. But the speed of the world is not changing. So tomorrow you'll be diving in this fast-flowing river again, and the problem is the same. So I thought, what if you could expand that by triggering the brain's neuroplastic function to build new neural connections that are actually free to use? So basically make the bucket bigger rather than just only cleaning it up and reorganizing it.
So actually in your program, people are extending their brain capacity so
Yes.
they have more space and create the space between the stimulation and the response. They can choose their behavior instead of being managed by the triggers outside. This is actually what the program focuses on, to extend.
Absolutely. And the trick is, because the question I always get is, but how can you expand brain capacity? Because, many people that know a thing or two about the brain, they know that when you learn something new, you'll build new neural pathways in the brain. But then you learn something that's specific and you get good at it. For example, riding a bike. So the trick behind this was, how can I learn something that's really about nothing? So I built new neural connections that I can use for anything. So the program that I've shown you, if you remember, just tracking a couple of balls around a box in a three-dimensional environment, there's no context. But basically, it's about absolutely nothing. But that's exactly the idea, because this will increase the speed and everything. It will get more complex. So you'll start to learn how to do that in a faster, more complex way. So in order to be able to learn, so you have to do it for a couple of months, the brain will build new neural connections, because that's how the brain works. And you'll learn something about nothing, really. So you can use them for anything. That creates the high, what they call transfer value, the transfer to real life. Otherwise, I just get good at the program, but that wouldn't bring me anything.
So let me see if I understand. You give us an exercise that I need to do. Okay, not too much rational thinking, but doing this like automatically. And once
Yeah.
I'm doing it, I'm actually present. So I'm engaging my brain to be like with nothing, without thinking, but in the present moment. And
Yes.
actually, by doing this new exercise, I incorporate a new connection in my brain between two parts that weren't connected before. And then I create a new pathway forward, right? So this is like interesting. So it's like this would create the neuroplasticity, right? Because we create new connection in our brain. And at the same
Plus,
time,
yeah.
we are more present and less in our wandering mind that triggers us to think all day long and create the bucket to be full, right?
Yes, and not only new connections, but also new brain cells. It also stimulates what they call neurogenesis, so the production of new brain cells. And that's why I see a lot of people that have suffered from traumatic brain injury due to an accident or a stroke, and they lost part of the connections and brain cells due to the injury. And usually, when they go through the standard interventions, which are very helpful, it will help them cope with the situation, but it doesn't rebuild the brain. And that's what my program does. So
It
it
does.
will,
It doesn't rebuild the brain
no,
because they overcome it.
no, they learn to manage, they manage it. Usually, the clients I get have heard, well, this is it, learn to live with it and learn to deal with it with the limitations you have. And we say, well, let's see if we can get much more out of it and see if I can get you back to 100% or maybe even 120, even better than ever before.
And that by doing this practice again and again and creating.
Well, yeah, the practice, the brain training program, which is completely scientifically backed, it's one of the most science-proven programs out there. And I worked for that together with the people that developed it at the University of Montreal in Canada. It pivots around this program, but the coaching around it, and there's also a nutritional health protocol program we build around it. That's very essential to getting the most out of the program because, as you can imagine, I mean, the mind is not only about just building these new connections and then you get better at it. But the interesting thing that I saw over the years that I was building this program was actually once you get more room in your head to think about what you're thinking, so really be able to reflect much more on life, on what you do, on everything, it'll give you a different perspective. And when you create this peace of mind, you get back to your inner self. So you really get to your true purpose in life eventually. Once you get there, and that was one of the reasons why I was at the Happiness Summit, because obviously happiness is when you really find your true purpose and you're doing the things you love. Once you get there, your frequency, your body's frequency will go up. So you get into a better mood, you feel more joy. And that's healing in itself. So by the time you get there, so you fix it first from the outside in, and then from the inside out, it only accelerates and you start spiraling up. So there's much more to it than just the brain training itself.
So yes, it's amazing because you speak about starting with the brain, like kind of, I call it technically, okay, doing this technical exercises in order to create the new connections. But as you said, I like the way you described it because you create the space and then you're able to see yourself from a third perspective. Like you can be reflective about yourself and connect better with yourself and then connect with your why, with your passion, with your triggers, seeing what triggers me. And now I can get out of my automatic behaviors and create this rich choice. And then I'm actually consciousness of what I do and navigate my life to wherever I want. And you know what resonates mostly with me? It's nothingness, because to be honest, like in the last 6 months, I attended, I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes, of course.
So I was in Mexico in June in his retreat for the advanced.
Great.
And he talks about nothingness and vacuum, and
Yes.
from then also I met a colleague that helped me better connect with my inner self, with my being able to connect with the pineal gland and beyond this and to feel this nothingness. And now every morning I start with meditation. I always started like for the 20 years, last years, but in the last 6 months, I'm really able to connect to this nothingness, to this energy, to the frequency at the end of the day, right? So,
Absolutely.
but it's a deep process. It's not, as you say, it's not really, okay, do this exercise and it will click for you. You need to go deeper and take it forward. What do you think about it?
Well, it's very interesting that you say this because as I mentioned, I started the program with just the brain training, right? Expand brain capacity for high performance people. And that's why I worked with all these athletes and everybody and military, special forces. And it worked really well. But I also saw some differences. Some people went faster than others. Everybody improved significantly, but there was a difference. So then I ventured off into biochemistry because I wanted to know what are the exact nutrients that we are maybe lacking from our daily diet because the diet has changed so much. And what are the essential ones that we really need for cell function and brain function. So I developed a nutritional program that actually supports the brain training. So basically, physiologically, you get up to speed. Brain technically, you get up to speed. So thereby, I already cover, let's say, the mind and the body. But what I started seeing was there was this other part that I really couldn't touch, which you may call the soul, because people would tend to say, when they were a couple of weeks down the program, they say, "Oh, I found myself again." And I would think, well, what did you find? And what did you lose? And where does this reside in the body? Because obviously, this is nothing physical, this is energetical. So they really get to their true selves and to their soul. So coming back to what you mentioned about Joe Dispenza and being able to connect and the pineal gland, I think if your brain is too occupied, we kind of get stuck in the thinking brain, and we're so limited in getting to our true self, to our inner self. I have clients they try to meditate and they can't, simply because they cannot find the peace of mind and the quietness they need to properly meditate. Well, you meditate, so you know what I mean. And what I found is if they go through the program and physically and brain technically they get up to speed, what always happens is some kind of a lid opens and the shit comes out, there may be childhood traumas or other stuff or all this negative energy that's somewhere stuck inside that's basically limiting them, can also be limiting beliefs in their conditioning. That's why it's so hard to step outside the comfort zone for people who are fully stuck and always switched on. But by that time, you all of a sudden start to feel that you can go into that direction and step into the unknown, as also Dr. Dispenza so nicely put also in his book. Mm-hmm. And once you are able to step into the unknown and connect to nothingness, the paradoxical thing is, within the nothingness, there's everything. And I'm sure you experienced this. And this was also a theme that was a little bit of a part in my life. I won't say I'm a control freak. I mean, absolutely not anymore. Maybe I was to a certain extent. I like to think in a good way because I always wanted to do things right for everyone and everybody, sometimes forgetting about myself, but always kind of controlling situations with all the best intentions and love in mind. However, that's not letting go. And sometimes you just have to put and place your trust in that things will go as they go anyway, and just let go of that part of control. And in the same way, I think that if you're really able to let go and truly understand what that means, that's when you have the most control, because you don't need to have control.
I so agree with you because, in my process, this is, I met a friend of mine, a colleague, like in Google. I gave a lecture at Google, and after the lecture came and talked with me and said, I think it's a superpower, mindfulness, and we connected. And the word that he resonated to me all this time is like surrender, let go, surrender. And I'm in this process for 20 years, but I have this fine-tuning that I needed to do in order to really deeply connect with myself and to surrender and to enable, as you said, so for the world, all the shit to rise up in order to clean and get out of the system. But it's really challenging for me it was really challenging, and it was really scary, and it contained a lot of a meditation that I really cried a lot and let the sadness, meet this unpleasant feeling that were bearing in my body. So I think the surrender and the acceptance is the essence of our ability to be in the unknown and to really enable things to unfold and to rise. But it's, as you said, a paradoxical experience because sometimes you feel joy and happiness, and sometimes you meet this sadness and sorrow and anger or whatever comes. So we need to be able to increase our ability to contain this various emotions. What do you think about it?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And one of the things that I also noticed in that is that I think it's human. There's a lot of people doing that. We kind of tend to push things away and let's leave it in the past and those kind of things, right? What happened, happened, and we don't talk about it anymore. But what not a lot of people realize is that these emotions are still kind of stored in the body and they will develop eventually or trigger a disease. So you need to clean them up. But nobody wants to or is eager to confront themselves and, excuse me for the word, but for the shit that's still buried inside. Whereas if you really, I always tend to say to my clients, embrace the shit. Really embrace it, go through it, face it head on with friendliness, but just confront yourself with it because otherwise everything you resist will remain in your system. So you have to go through it. I mean, it's easy to say, but I know from personal experience as well, it's not very easy to do at all. It's not a switch that you flip, it's a whole process. But you have to enable the body to do it. And that's what I found as a change for people when they go through my program, because I have some clients that tried everything and it did help to some extent, but never fully. And then they went through my program and all of a sudden it helped them, even to the point where I started to wonder, I mean, it's great that it helps, but what's different? And one of the things that I came to find what was really different is if your brain and body are functioning as optimally as possible, that basically enables your physical body to get to that different part of yourself and process it in a much, well, I would say easier, because it's never easy, but at least you get to the point where you can process it.
That's good. So you say it's a process and you need to create the space in the next layer in order for our body and experience to be able to contain the experience, because if we won't be balanced and we won't be able to contain it, we can have a very traumatic experience. So we need to do it as a process, not to delve into it in one time. It doesn't work like
You
that.
can't.
Can you give me an example of one of the coaches that you work with, or an example that for our listener to understand what does it mean, how does it look like, and if they want tomorrow morning to start this process, what they need to do in order to embrace like baby steps?
Yeah, oh, I have many examples, and maybe to start off with something that's always kind of funny is I had somebody from an insurance company come over, and he was very interested, and he asked me, "What is the success rate of your program?" And I told him, actually, I would prefer to lie about it. And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I would like to say 80%." He said, "But why would you want to lie about it? Is it 60?" I said, "No, it's actually 100, but that sounds too good to be true. And that makes it in one way maybe too hard to believe." He said, "Yeah, I would find that hard to believe." I said, "Well, that's what I mean. So 80. He said, "But it's really 100. It's really 100. Up to the point where I started wondering, why is it 100%? Why? I mean, wonderful, but why? And the answer to that, I did find the answer to it, is actually because I'm not fixing you from the outside in. You are fixing you from the inside out. And I'm actually helping you. I found a way to press the right buttons and trigger the right processes, support these processes with my program. But the magic is in yourself. You are doing it. I'm just helping you do it. And that's why it always works. Not always to the full 100%, but in many cases, at least to 90 and sometimes even to 120. So to give you a few examples from different angles, I remember one time I had a CEO of a large company, and he had run into his second burnout. He came over for a first interview, and his wife came along, and we had this talk, and he was really tired. I mean, you can see it in his expression and everything. He had it. I mean, he couldn't work anymore. He was just really burned out and burned up. And his wife said, I also don't like my husband so much anymore. He's not the nice guy he used to be. And I mean, this felt very sad. But the whole picture was clear. So we went into the program, and that was one of the first times where somebody told me I kind of lost myself. And I wondered, what did you lose? And that's where this part of, let's say, the soul came in at a later stage, because about 2 months later, and he was doing much better, he actually told me he found himself again because he got connected to the inside again. 1 week later or so, his wife gave me a call, and I thought there was something wrong with him. And I said, "Oh, is everything all right with him?" And she said, "Yeah, no, he's fine. I just wanted to call you personally to thank you because I have my husband and my friend back again, because he's becoming himself again." And that was so amazing. I never, up until that point, never thought about these aspects. This is about maybe 10 years ago. And I started to build in this element as well. And from that point on, and let's say a little bit of the spiritual part that we just spoke about, I've seen so many more examples. I've had a woman with a depression for 30 years. She was in her mid-40s. She had a depression for a long time. She had anxiety to go into public spaces. And so she went through the program. She tried everything. Nothing helped, really. And she's done a lot of good interventions. And they helped to some extent, but never fully. And then she went through my program. And we got to that same point in about 2 months' time where it seems like you get the access. The door opens to your inside. We got to the point where she could really start to embrace all the things she had gone through in her childhood times, which had caused the anxiety, always living in fear from a very hostile environment. And all of a sudden, she could get to that part of herself, and we could start working with that and releasing it. And there was a huge increase in her daily life, and she just dared to go out again onto the street and everything, and face people, and her depression went away for a very large extent.
Sounds amazing. I'm curious, what does your program contain? What is the process? Like I'm a...
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the standard program is 4 months. There's a reason for 4 months. First reason is because neuroplasticity, I mean, it takes place immediately, but for the brain, in order to really sink in well and build these neural pathways, it takes about 2.5 months, and then 1.5 months to really consolidate. And the other thing is we also do some very specific blood testing for fatty acids. Hardly anyone ever heard of this or does this, funny enough, because it's so essential to know your fatty acid balance, and especially the omega-3s, which are crucial for proper brain function. So in order to do a second test, we need 4 months because the red blood cell has a 120-day life cycle. So this takes 4 months. In these 4 months, you get full access to the brain training program. You can do that remotely. You can download it and we'll create an account for you. Mm-hmm. Then typically I see the client once a week, preferably live. If they're not living close, we can do it online, but preferably live. I see him once a week during the first 8 weeks and once every 2 weeks during the second 8 weeks. And throughout the whole period, I'll give him a health protocol, which consists of a very good omega, of prebiotics to restore the intestine and proper function of the gut, and some range of vitamins and minerals, but all the essential ones and carefully balanced, which will ensure the support of all your cells, not only in your brain, but also in your body, because the more relaxed the cells in your body are, the less occupied the brain is with managing a situation that's not working well. So these things all go hand in hand. And that's the full package of 4 months. And then after 4 months, we do an evaluation. Sometimes you need a little bit of an extension of 3 months or shorter, or sometimes you're done.
Amazing. So first of all, I hear it like a really holistic program, like it's mind, body, soul.
Yes.
Where it's also hybrid. You also work in Zoom. You do work with them one-on-one, but they also use in their own time the program when they can. So it goes also, they have this consulting, they have your coaching that you can assist them during this process.
Yes.
I heard you say at the beginning that I think, and it also resonates with what I'm doing, what's the secret flavor that helps it to really be transformative and successful? It's actually their free choice, their free will that they come to this world and they actually choose to go this deep process to increase their self-awareness. At the end of the day, it's about self-awareness, right? Creating the space between the stimulation and the response, connecting to really to what I want, not to please other people, and not to do what other expect from me, but what I really want, what Karen wants, and not because my parents want it for me, not because my spouse wanted it for me, no, because I want it. So it helps us connect deeper with ourselves. And with your program, you create this space for people to get out of the wandering mind and to be in this anxiety thoughts that increases our anxiety and decreases our well-being. So you create also the structure and the space, and you also help them go deeper to themselves. But the fact that they chose it, then they wanted it, it will succeed. Because if they wouldn't want it, it won't succeed, right? Because at the end of the day, self-awareness sits the foundation for self-awareness is the willingness to meet ourselves and to go deeper and to embrace all the tools and the program that you give them. Am I right?
Yes, yes, and I think that's also in. I mean, in relation to your work, I always like reading your posts and quotes also about leadership and wisdom to lead. What I like, looking back now on my career and especially my last job in the Air Force, when I was squadron commander, and at that time it was the largest squadron in the Air Force because of things changed and reorganization with the largest squadron in the Air Force, and I did it based on gut feeling. But I'm very happy to say that even up until today, when I go back to the airbase and I meet the people, it's a little bit funny to say about yourself, but they also, oh, that's the best commander we ever had. And I mean, it's nice to hear that, but I also question why was it that this was working so well? And these people that were actually in a reorganized organization, and a lot of them didn't feel like it, why did they get so motivated? And one of the things was, I think, that although I was in charge, I was never the boss. I was actually serving my people, but I had the last and end responsibility. So I would make the decisions. Some would like it, some would not. Well, that's how it works. But I was never really the boss, and I tried to motivate them intrinsically. And I think what helped was a certain level of vibration. And that's what I see now also, I mean, typically in the world, because you can look at leadership in a sense of, I mean, even in family life, there's no leader, but, or in a sports club. I think if you ask me, it all has to do with what am I radiating? What's my frequency? Do I have any charisma? Or is it because people do something for me because they like me, or, So what I'm trying to say is once you get to your true self and you really get back to your own energy, and you know what I'm talking about, it's your frequency goes up and you become a much nicer person, not only for yourself, but for your whole environment. And others, because of the resonance, will start vibrating in the same way. And they'll say, oh, it's so nice to be around you.
You're like a magnet. So I want to recap what you said. I think you said a few great things. First of all, people like you as a leader because you came in a mindset of serving them, how you can serve them. The second thing, you really had them to connect to their inner motivation, right? Not to do things because of the reward, external reward, but to listen to themselves and bring themselves fully and from the intrinsic motivation. It's so crucial. Right. And the last thing that you say, it's yes, as we're increasing our awareness and presence, we're increasing our vibration, and it's all about frequency, right? So it resonates with other people, and we get into be a magnet for people, right? Because people feel that they get energy from only being with us, and they want our presence, and then it creates a positive atmosphere. So I think this really summarizes nicely the conversation we started with your brain program and all the great program that you bring to the world, and it's so needed nowadays. And I really love it because it is like a really holistic program that go deep and have really great results, and we need it in this world. So Mark, before we wrap up, is there any question that I didn't ask you and you want to refer to?
Oh, I think we can talk for 2 more hours with all about all these topics. But no, I think we pretty much covered what my work entails. I mean, there's so much more to tell about it. There's so many more examples, but I think we pretty much covered that.
Yeah. So if people want to reach out and find work, and they reach out, but find them.
I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. So they feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. There's also a link to my webpage, marvaloushealth.com. And marvelous is spelled differently than the normal English word. People, well, maybe it's a little funny thing to say, but marvelous, people ask me, didn't you spell that wrong? Because marvelous, you write with E and double L. And in my company name, it's like A-L-O-U-S, M-A-R-V-A-L-O-U-S. And it's spelled wrong. I said, no, well, the reason is because, and this might sound silly, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I was still in the Air Force, I don't know, many years ago, I woke up out of a dream in the middle of the night. And I thought, wow, if I ever start my own company, and I'm going to call it Marvalous, from Marc van Lokven, Ultimate Support. And I just wrote that down, never thought about it again until I started my own company. And I thought, yes, that's how I'm going to call it. And it's related to health, so it became Marvalous Health.
Amazing. Like it's connected to the wisdom within ourselves, right? You got the answer from your
Yeah,
intuition, from your wisdom. So
I already knew, I guess.
yeah, amazing. Mark, thank you very much. It's a really inspiring conversation, and we can continue for hours. So we have another chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, Karen, to be on your podcast. I'm honored. I definitely look forward to talk more about these things, either on or off podcast.
Great. Me too.
Hope you enjoyed the conversation. You're invited to subscribe to our podcast in order to know when we upload a new episode, and follow us on social media. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.